of one of the zillion versions of Ys 1, and specifically the TurboGrafx 16 CD release. Even though this particular version does have the interesting property of having both Ys 1 and 2 back-to-back as one continuous game, I'm just going to be running the Ys 1 category, which is a little bit different speedrun-wise and is a tighter run overall and overall a little more techy and high ceiling. So we're going to miss out on some of the story, but we'll get to see a little better speedrun for our trouble. All right. With no further ado, let us get rolling in 3, 2, 1, start. So I saw some people in the chat talking about shipwrecks between games, and interestingly, this is the first version that shows the origin story of how Adol gets to Ys. The others, like the original PC-88, just have him starting at the top of the town. And in this one, there's no shipwreck. That was introduced fully as canon in the PC remakes, the Eternals, Chronicles, and Complete versions. All right, so we meet the fortune teller, Sarah, here, and she's going to ask us to help her out. And the first thing we're going to do is ignore her completely. We put the game into fast mode, of course, and we're going to go run out and do a little bit of grinding for money. We cannot actually progress the plot until we have a full set of equipment, a sword, shield, and armor, and Sarah will not let us do anything until that happens, and we actually can't afford it with our starting gold, so we need to do a little bit of fighting out here in the field. We'll notice immediately the distinctive feature of these early Ys games, which is the bump combat. Adol does not have an attack button. You just ram into the monsters to fight them. And the intent is that you want to hit them like off-center. That's more advantageous than hitting them straight head-on. And that is the idea of the combat system. This particular version of the game has a little bit different implementation of that. It's a little more sort of forgiving in some ways, but also more technical in others. So you can, in theory, hit monsters head-on and not take damage. But the ways that monsters will bounce off of you and sort of create angles for second hits are different depending on how you hit them, as well as your relative power levels to the monsters. And so it's a bad idea to be messing with hitting them head-on too often, unless you're significantly stronger than the monster in question. So we need one more of these little blue knight guys. Get this one here, I guess. That was weird. And we're going to get started. All right, so having done all that, we'll do a little menuing here. So what I did there is I sold that golden vase that we picked up, which is an item that only exists to be sold, and we bought a sapphire ring for this little side quest, as well as a warp wing, which is for fast travel. And now we have exactly enough money to satisfy the requirement of needing all the gear. One nice thing about this game is that the menus are very zippy, and they're as fast as you can make them. There's no delay. All right, once we go into Sarah's shop with our gear, actually has to be equipped. If you forget to equip it, she will not give you the crystal. She will set us on our way, and she asks us to help her track down the Books of Ys. So the lore of this game is that there is this mysterious vanished civilization called Ys that just mysteriously disappeared, and nobody knows what happens to it, but the secrets may be contained in the Books of Ys, which we are looking for as part of our quest. In addition to getting to the next town, I'm trying to get enough experience that I have at least 172 leaving this screen. I want to have this level before we enter the next dungeon. You're definitely right about that, Stoltz, especially the X68000 version of Lagoon, which very much ripped off the bump combat as well. It was originally a similar combat design to this one, which is one reason why the sword is so short. It was never intended to be a sprite that you swung at the enemies. All Alright, I want to kill this guy for 3 experience. Now we're coming up on a boss fight right at the start of the game. One of the first of many that are pretty heavy RNG boss fights. So this guy will just teleport around his little chamber at random, and he may or may not teleport close enough to me to get damage in. And it's kind of up to the random number gods. And then after that boss fight, we're moving into a very technical section of the run, the Palace 1. But let's do the boss fight first. You don't want to be too aggressive with the fire here. Even though it's hard to die in this fight, it's not impossible. That was pretty good. 3 cycles is about average. Okay, so Shrine 1, our goals here are to do some plot advancement stuff and pick up some items, and then get some gold so that we can afford more warp wings later, and then get out of here, and we'll come back to it and finish it in a second trip. Oh, I forgot something. Whoops. I'm supposed to do a little mini grind here. That guy didn't respawn for some reason. That's really odd. There he is. There we go. I wasted a little time there, but that's no biggie. We want to get this level 350 coming up here. Our next goal is that chest you might have just seen guarded by those flame enemies. I'm going to do something right there that might have looked strange. I just entered and exited the save menu. And I'm going to actually take the death here. That was a really bad start. What that did, as you'll see here, is entering and exiting the save menu creates a checkpoint, even if you don't make a save file. And so that's very useful. I call that a flash save. It allows me to just very quickly make a progress save that I can use as a checkpoint in case of a bad outcome like I just got there. We're going to have to just take this. I can heal in a second. So that chest grab is difficult, and as that indicates, one of the more technical and difficult parts of this game, and particularly this version, but I think all Ys games with the bump combat, is crowd control. Like when you're fighting large numbers of monsters in a group, the way that the monsters can kind of combo you to death is very dangerous. So that's going to be a theme of the run.
Are you here to rescue me? How wonderful it would be to escape these chains. I have been locked up here for too long. My name is Fina.
We also see that this being a CD game took advantage of the extra storage space to have voice acting, and actually very good voice acting. This is actually a very well cast game. There's famous voice actors you might have heard of, like Jim Cummings, that were part of this project, and it's like super good, not just for the era, though by a wide margin for the era, but just objectively. It's a really, really well voice acted game. And please die. All right. Falcom or NEC really put a lot of production value into this particular version. This was really intended to be a serious, a serious release that was going to blow people's minds. And in a lot of ways, it may have been ahead of its time. Like the game is so good, but it was 1991 on a CD system that not that many people had. It wasn't what people expected as a game. It was sort of mind-blowing, but also this weird outlier, and I think kind of fell between the cracks in some ways. Yeah, Jim Cummings, though he's really only in Book 2. We'll hear him in the ending of Book 1, but he's not in the first half of the game. All right, so because it's a marathon, I'm going to duck out there and heal. Probably I would have reset after that chest grab, honestly, in a normal attempt, but hey, what are you going to do? All right, so next we're going to come back here to this same spot. We've gotten an extra level or two from Fina, and we're going to use this same spot with all these enemies to grind for some extra gold, because I actually need quite a bit of gold to finish the next segment of the run, because we need to have 2 warp wings budgeted for, and that's going to cost us a total of 4,000. So I need to have actually here about 2,300, because you've also noticed me picking up some items along the way. Some of those I can sell. And it'd be nice if the guy that ran off the screen would either despawn or come back so I could get my full 3 enemies here. Because we're slowing down our pace here quite a bit by having 2 out of 3. What are you going to do, though? So, I mentioned crowd control is difficult, and it is. It's one of the harder things to do in this game and quite dangerous. But it's also, by nature, something that's going to be in the run a lot, because the optimal grind spots are usually going to be places where there's lots of enemies in one spot. And so, by design, the game is routed to require a lot of crowd control combat, like this. And I would say this is, in many ways, the scariest and highest ceiling part of the run, are these handful of grinds where I'm wrangling multiple monsters in rooms where if I make a mistake and get hit, I will be comboed to death, like in one shot, pretty easily. So there's several of these throughout the game, and we're going to hope they go okay. So with all that down, we have our gold threshold now. Wow, thank you, please. Okay. We're going to grab this item and get the heck out of here. That was a little bit of a wobbly shrine one, but it went fine. Now, we can't really do the second half of the shrine. We can complete that dungeon in the story here, but we don't really have the gear for it right now. So to do something about that, we're going to do a little bit of a sequence break here. As someone in chat is just mentioning, we're going to go into the cave very early, the mine, the second dungeon of the game. And we're going to grab some overpowered stuff, some plot items, as well as one thing that will allow us to pick up a super nice weapon. So this cave section is also a pretty difficult and technical part of the run. I'm hoping for good enemy movement and RNG here, and if I don't get it, I can kind of brute force my way through it with these safety saves. And so we're going to kind of do a combination of hoping for the best with movement and dodging, and to the extent I can't do that, I will take advantage of the mechanics of this game to bully my way through this cave. So one of the important things that I'm watching for here is when you do take a death and reload, the monsters do not save their position on the screen. They go back to their spawn points. So if I know where the spawn points are, I can make saves in like safe locations that are beyond the spawn points. And then either if I get hit or die, I can just take a death, restart at the spawn point, and kind of skip past the monsters that are behind me now. So that's sort of the gimmick here. That was a good first floor. We absolutely do not want to take damage on the first floor. But the second floor is where the real difficulty is. So this first chest grab, these eyeball monsters are the true terror. I'm just going to let him kill me. These guys are very deadly, and unlike the other monsters, we really don't have a very good chance of pushing them back with a hit, like we have with the sort of tick noise. If they touch me, they're almost certainly going to damage me, although it's not 100%, but it's very likely. Okay, we got the harmonica nicely. I'm going to see if I can get around this dude and not take damage. Excellent. So that's really good. I actually budget the one hit I can spare for that chest, so if we don't have to use it there, then I can use it somewhere else, as we just did. Now that is a really awkward location for this green dude. He is nowhere near that spot in his spawn point. So he decided to be a real jerk. And that's going to mess up my next chest grab son, because there's a monster that face guards this next chest. I'm going to stand here and kill some time just to hope he walks away. We didn't get it. If you don't take a death, the odds that he has wandered away from his spawn point are pretty high. But if you have to reload in this hallway, it's a bit of a crapshoot. So we may be here for a few minutes. Not literally. It's going to take 2 or 3 attempts, but this is always just very random. It's completely blind. He decided to come out and kill me that time. And I'm just kind of hoping for the best here. Wow. Usually this is a 50-50, so we're getting a little unlucky here. I thought I could sneak by him there while he was in the little crevice, but he saw me. Yeah, this is a really nasty segment. And this is a big reset point in any percent attempts. But we got it. That was ugly. And I would reset there in a real run. That was pretty bad. But hey. Do the rest of my healing here. Alright, so what we did was we picked up 2 plot items. The first one, the silver harmonica, we'll give later to the poet Lair, who will give us one of the Books of Ys. It's not available yet. We will also take this rhodotree seed and talk to a tree with it. So the seed allows you to speak to trees. And the trees are very interesting people in this game. They have things to tell us. So we're going to do that. So the tree gives us a pep talk, and much more importantly, gives us a sword. A silver sword. So the silver gear, there's this sort of running subplot that someone is stealing everything that's been made out of silver in the town. There's a few different little dialogues and quests about that. And there is also a full set of silver equipment. This is the 4th level sword. So you might have seen I bought the 1st level sword and stuff earlier. We now have the 4th level sword already. In addition, we're going to turn in the silver bell, also part of that silver thing, to the mayor here. And he's going to give us 80 experience as well as an item. And despite the fact that this cutscene is decently long, it's about 30 seconds, this item saves so much time in the run that this is well worth doing. The item is the power ring, which doubles our offense. So the combination of the silver sword plus the power ring, we are now really, really strong, especially relative to our level and relative to where the game expects us to be at the moment. So with that all in mind, we're going to now go back to the shrine, which we really would not have been able to do in a timely manner with only level 1 gear, because the enemies in the second half are pretty hard to kill with only the level 1 sword. And we're going to go absolutely annihilate it. This is a really fun split for me because it's really consistent and pretty much a breather, and it's just really easy because it's super overpowered. And it's just fun to do it precisely and not make any movement mistakes and all that. So I always enjoy this split in the run, especially after the first part of the run, which is quite difficult and often a reset heavy point. Once I get this far on a good pace, it's like, I got a few minutes of time to just mess around and kill some dudes and dominate everything. So we're coming back into the shrine here. I am trying to kill stuff as I walk. I don't really want to go out of my way, but I do have another gold threshold to worry about, so we're going to try to collect some money. So mainly we're just going to hit all our marks here and get all the plot stuff. There's 2 keys plus a silver shield, but I'm also going to do a little bit of grinding in here. Interestingly, even though we are super overpowered right now, it's because of equipment and not because of our level. The game actually considers us appropriately leveled for this dungeon, so we are still getting full value from the monsters in terms of their experience points, at least the late monsters here. That will change as we level up. You get kind of diminishing returns in this game. But for now, these are worth full value. We're going to take advantage of that to get some levels here. So now I'm one-shotting these kind of cat enemies. And with all of our chests grabbed, except for one, I guess, we're going to do a quick mini grind here. So I'm just going to let this guy respawn. If his spawn point is off screen, he'll just sort of respawn after a few seconds. And we'll just kind of loop this over and over again to get some really fast experience. Once I get to about 900 or a little short of it, I'm going to move to another spot because at 900, this enemy stops being worth 8 and becomes worth 4. So we're going to switch over to the vampire dudes instead for the remainder of our levels here. And we'll get this level up to 1100, and I also want to make sure I leave this dungeon with 8,000 gold, which usually is actually the binding constraint here. So we're going to make sure that I keep an eye on that. These guys do take 2 hits to kill, so we're a little slower here, but not by any significant margin. Yeah, Jiggly Saint, I have not derusted Book 2 in quite some time, so I wasn't really ready to submit it. And also, the theme of this marathon was short RPG speedrun, so I thought Book 1 was a good fit. It's a nice, tight speedrun. But I do want to get back to the full book 1 and 2 eventually, because I need to improve my time. All right. So with all of our goals here achieved, we're now going to go fight this boss. Do not blink. We're a little overpowered for that fight. Tiny bit. That boss can actually be really hard if you fight it in a level appropriate way, but we don't do that. Okay, we come back to the town actually for the last time, and we have a few things to do here. So we bought another wing. We're always going to want to have a wing on us at any given time. We have to see this cutscene to do some story advancement. This is necessary to get the second book we're about to pick up in a second. We're also going to buy some equipment, and we're going to talk to a poet. So we have this nice kind of square loop around the outside of the town that we follow here that hits all these spots. Ah, the vampire bat boss. We're about to come up on that. I love that fight. But I will say, if you were familiar with the PC version of the game, this version's Dark Fact is nowhere near as scary. He's kind of a chump in this one. Vagullion, I would say, is, I don't know if it's quite harder, but it's differently hard. It's an interesting fight in its own right. The version in the PC remakes is more of an endurance fight, and this one's more of a timing fight. All right, so we picked up the book as well as a massive 500 experience from talking to Lair there. That's also what we picked up the silver harmonica for earlier. And now we're going to go back and finish off the mine. Well, people might disagree with me, Snowfire, but I think the TurboGrafx Vagullion fight is amazing. I think it's really interesting and well done. It seems really difficult when you first encounter it, but you kind of realize, once you get used to the timing, that it's pretty cool. And it's a fight that I've put a ton of work in and I still find engaging. Like, it's always different, it's always interesting. So I really enjoy it. But, you know, your mileage may vary. I've also spent more time with this game than pretty much anyone else on Earth. The thing I don't like about the version of him on the PC is that you only get one hit per cycle, and that's something that's different on this one. Okay, for marathon safety, I'm also going to grab an item here that I would ordinarily skip. Well, I say that. I get it in my PB, but nowadays I'm trying to skip it. And that is the heal ring. So this allows us, as you might guess, to heal in hostile zones, which we normally cannot heal by standing in place in areas like this. And I hope I don't have to use it in the run, but if things go poorly in the grinding segments of Darm Tower, it's good to have it. Get back here. Okay, now I'm going to do a little micro grind on these Phoenix enemies. I'm going to stand on this exact tile, and they're going to path toward me. Even though I can't see them, I just have faith in the AI. And I'm going to try to duck over and kill them. And we're going to go to about 2060 here. Oh, hello. Thanks. And I'll get the rest on the way to the boss. But I want this level. It's not absolutely necessary, but it's nice to have it. It makes it possible to kill the boss one cycle faster, and it also makes it more consistent. Okay, wow, this has been rude. Okay, so that's a good level. I guess technically those phoenixes coming out to meet me made that faster, but it was also very scary. All right, so we are very quickly coming up on Vagullion, the bat boss that was mentioned in chat and people are complaining about. And I think if you haven't seen this game before, it's sort of self-explanatory why this is hard. But I'll give it our best shot to get this on the first try. I'm very good at this fight, and even I'm not 100% at this. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do this now, because this is getting weird. Taking like way more damage than usual here. We would have had to do that before the fight anyway, so I might as well get it in now and not take a really embarrassing death. Alright, here we go. This is a very RNG heavy fight. He can decide to just let me win, or he can decide to murder me. Whether he forms up and you can hit him is a 50-50. In addition, the window for doing damage is very tight, extremely tight. That's probably the most frustrating thing about this fight casually, is how tight it is to get damage in. Casual players will run into him and just not even hit him and get hurt, and they're like, what's going on here? You just gotta get used to the timing. There we go. Easy enough. Nice, clean fight. Okay, I went pretty far around that NPC, the guy, because some of the men in the town can do very long text messages where they have this like, sort of crawling text like we see here. Wastes a ton of time to run into the guys, so I always avoid them very, very widely. Yeah, because you can get multiple hits per cycle, exactly. It's quite a bit fairer to the player. It's a fight that's over quickly, win or lose, and that rewards sort of getting used to the timing and getting good at it, and it's really fun to do over and over again. I think it's the most satisfying boss to practice. I just love doing that fight. Because it's just really interesting every time. It's never quite the same. Is the Japanese version faster? Actually, probably not, although it's not a really good question, because, in fact, let me let this cutscene play out, then I'll talk about that.
Oh, I have heard about your bravery. You're going to Darm Tower to find the book, aren't you? The locals here call it the Tower of Death. You can imagine why. The door only opens from one direction, so none of the gruesome creatures inside can creep out. Once you go in there, you'll never be able to get back out. If you are really as brave as they say you are, then the entrance to the tower is at the back of this house. Good luck.
That voice actor is actually a guy named Thomas Hayden Church, who you might know from TV's Wings, the sitcom in the 90s. Fun fact. So anyway, the Japanese game, when they ported it over to English, they didn't just translate it and translate the text. They also made a large number of small tweaks to things like monster data. So it's actually not the same game at all. Things like monster experience values, gold drops, monster stats are just slightly different, and so it's really not a comparable timing. It probably is faster purely in text, but in general, at least in Book 1, experience values are lower, so it's probably slower overall. So Book 2 should be considerably faster. The main enemies I grind on in Book 2 are worth 60 at the time I kill them, and they're worth 100 in the Japanese version. So that version's probably quite a bit faster for the second book, but not in the first one. It's 255, as you would expect from old school games. All right, we're now in Darm Tower, and you might look at the estimate and not believe me when I say this is the final dungeon. We're already in the final dungeon. This is Disc 2 of the original PC-88 version, and it's 25 floors of activity. There's a lot going on here, a lot of plot, a lot of backtracking. It's quite a lengthy dungeon. And we've got a lot to do here. We're going to be here a while. It has what I consider the most banging music track in East 1. I love this rearrange of Tower of the Shadow of Death. This is originally Yuzo Koshiro, and this arrange is by Ryo Yonemitsu, and I think this version of it is amazing. I love this version. I never get tired of it. At the moment, we're just sort of ascending up the tower with, sort of exploring. But pretty soon we will have an incident occur, and that will cause us to do some reassessing. Yeah, our max HP in East 1 is going to top out at like 145, I think. Something like that. Okay, so we get kidnapped by this trap, and our equipment has been stolen.
Hello, I'm Luda Gemma. Not long ago, I was walking through the many corridors of this tower. As I turned a corner, I came across a long hall with many stone statues lining its walls. Suddenly, an old man appeared in front of me. As our eyes met, he panicked and disappeared into the wall. Soon after, I was caught by the goons.
I like how they call all the monsters goons in this. And now we get rescued by Colin, as he was renamed to in this version for some reason, also known as Dogi, a recurring character in the series, of course, who I guess the localizers did not know that, and decided to rename him Colin. Right. And in addition to all of our gear being stolen, all our silver gear was stolen, so we have to revert to whatever we happen to carry. So in this case, in the route, that is the level 1 sword and shield, but I did buy the level 3 armor in town on my last shopping trip. You might have been wondering why that is. Well, it's for this. We have a long stretch without our gear. We will get the sword and the shield back pretty quickly, but the armor is gated past 2 bosses as well as the scariest grinding segment of the entire run, so it's good to have as much defense as possible for that. The hint we got about the guy in the hallway is to use this item, and I happen to know where he's located on the map, so we don't need to take it off. Alright, and he gives us the blue necklace, which allows us past the statue trap that captured us earlier. Unlike a lot of items in this game, it is not a passive. You do have to have it equipped, so we need to make sure we do that on that menu. Our next sort of mission in the story is to retrieve all of our silver stuff, which thankfully the bosses decided to just, scatter throughout the tower instead of, say, hiding it behind the locked door that we can't open at the very top. So lucky for us, it's all available. The blue necklace, you mean? No, it does not protect from anything else. It's just required to get past that one spot. In the PC remakes, there's an item we picked up called the Evil Ring, which is used to unlock a door. But the Evil Ring will kill you if you wear it. And you do have to put on the blue necklace to wear the Evil Ring safely. In this game, it doesn't bother with that interaction, so we don't have that in this one. Also, if you forget to put on the blue necklace and you keep going through those statues, the NPCs at the bottom will continue to make increasingly snide remarks about the fact that you're kind of dumb. So it's always funny to do that. You get taken into successive new prison cells and Dogi keeps breaking through the walls. It's kind of a funny sequence. Alright, we're about to pick up the sword, which interestingly is the first item you get back. You would often tend to think that it would actually be the last one you would get back, but the developers of this have my eternal thanks for making it the very first item you recover. Well, at some point you run out of cells and he doesn't need to bust through the walls anymore. So, there aren't any more walls to break down, and he just yells at you. All right, on this floor there is a boss that we will need to fight, but at the moment I can't even damage him, much less kill him. So we're going to need to do some grinding to get some levels so that can happen. We're coming up quickly on easily the scariest segment of the run for me, on a good pace especially, which is the statue grind. So you can kind of see in this room, there's this chest and there's 4 statues around it. And when I pick up the chest, they're going to come to life and attack me. Please get out of the way. This guy will damage me if I touch him, because he has what's called the guard property in this game, which are monsters that automatically hurt you under certain circumstances. I'm going to get set up and safety save, and then we want to try not to die here. Alright, so I'm going to probably not commentate this too hard because I have to concentrate. But the goal is, it's crowd combat, these guys move erratically, we want to stay at the bottom of the room to get spawns. We want to frequently flash save so that we can not lose too much progress when I inevitably get comboed into death. And we want to hope this goes well. My PB had a thoroughly godlike grind here. I did not get hit once. I guess I got hit once and used the heal potion and then refilled. It was really clean. That's never going to happen again, frankly, but we're going for it here. These guys are worth so much experience and are so densely packed in this room that this grind spot is literally like 3 times more efficient than anything else available at this point in the game. So it's well worth the danger. And we're going to stay here until I get to 4100. This is also the spot I picked up the heal ring for. If I do get too bodied on HP, I can go to the top of the room, which will cause the monsters not to spawn because their spawn points are on screen, and I can heal. Hopefully it doesn't come to that, but if we do need to do it, we have the ability. Which I'm going to actually do here. Up to about halfway. I like to be able to take one hit without worry of dying, just because that makes it a little more forgiving. Okay, these guards are getting really on my nerves. Even though in theory they're more experienced when they come in and let you get extra kills, they're just more annoying than anything because they move differently from the other enemies, and they tend to actually path toward you instead of just traveling in lines, and they just always mess up my vibe here. A couple more levels. These guards are just like in my face today. They're also lower level than the statues, so they're not actually worth that much experience at this point. Alright, we're just going to go for this at this point. Okay. That was okay. It's done better, but sorry, I didn't really look at chat during that, but the goal was 4100 as we just got. Whew. That part is so hard. It probably looks a little hard, but man, it's so much worse than it looks. Wrangling those guys and not getting completely destroyed is one of the more technical parts of the run. And really high skill ceiling. Alright, with that we're going to go back to the boss that we were fighting, or that we skipped past, named Pictumos. And this is always a funny fight for me, because it's not really that hard, but it comes right after that grind. My thumb's usually a little sore from the grind, and this is a fight that punishes greed, so it's always a little bit scary that I might just get a little lazy here and easily die from the lack of iframes that exist here. But that went pretty well. Phew. Okay, so with that frantic sequence out of the way, that's actually, for me, the scariest split in the whole run is in my splits volume Mesa, which includes the grind in that boss. And once that's done, we get a little breather, we get just some walking to continue up the tower, get to relax a little, and enjoy the music a bit, and then move on to another much easier boss. Yeah, the hammer we picked up is indeed a required progression item. It's going to allow us to get past the, what's it called in the remakes, the corridor of whatever it is, the music that plays that damages us over time. So it allows us to break a pillar that stops the music. So coming up in the room where we break the pillar is one of my favorite little movement optimizations in the whole run. It's not even going to look like anything much, but the moment when I stop, enter the menu, and do the hammer, it's just like such a nice pattern, the way that plays out, the way that all the button presses work, that it's just super satisfying. So here we go. It's just like ba 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 ba, you're done, and I just love that. It just feels so nice to do it, and it's just really satisfying. It probably isn't even that impressive to look at. I always enjoy that. Make sure we get that level. Devil's Corridor, thank you, that's it. So yeah, the Devil's Corridor is this room we're about to enter with the creepy walls. And if you don't break that pillar, then there's different music playing, and your health is draining very rapidly here, and you can't get all the way through it. So you have to do the pillar side quest to get through this area. Yeah, in terms of getting through it with a potion, I've never tried that, or at least not in a long time. I don't remember if it works or not. It probably doesn't. You might be able to grind a high enough level that you can somehow get through it once, but you actually have to traverse it 3 times in the run, or in the game, so you wouldn't be able to do it. Now we're coming up on another boss fight that is probably the dumbest boss, not just in this game, but in the entire series. This is a somewhat poorly conceived boss that for most people is just a damage race. You just kind of run into the middle of him and wiggle and hope you win. I'll be doing it a little cleaner than that, but it's still not really that interesting. The walk in a circle boss. And I'm actually like very disappointed that I took that much damage. That's pretty easy to do damageless with my setup. You know, interestingly, that boss is quite a bit better in the original PC-88 version of the game. They made him worse in all the subsequent ports and remakes. Because in the PC-88 version, it's basically the same fight, except that if you go too close to the middle of the boss, he makes kind of a bwam sound and ejects you, like spits you out across the room. And you take like a zillion damage. It's like half your health. Which means you actually have to figure out a good way to move so that you don't cause that to happen. You don't just go into the center and wiggle. You actually have to approach the fight as a puzzle and a movement fight that you have to figure out. So it's a little more interesting, ironically, in the very first version, and then they downgraded it in every subsequent version of the game. Ooh. Good. Like casually you fight that boss, the rock boss, and you try it once and you die, you try it another time and you win, and it's done. It's like such a forgettable fight. Now we're entering another plot-heavy portion of the game. So our next mission, which we could learn from talking to various NPCs who we're skipping, is to rescue Lair, the poet, who has been kidnapped by the bad guys, and she's being held prisoner in an area called Rado's Annex, which is the little like tower thing that's sticking off the edge of the tower in the art. And so we have to go find her and save her. You might remember I picked up a mirror earlier at the very bottom of the tower. That is a consumable item that freezes monsters in place. And I got it for one specific spot that's a little later on, but because we have 3 charges of it, I'm also going to take advantage of the fact that it's in our inventory, and we're going to use it to get through this little prison section. This little section is deceptively difficult. These monsters hit very hard, and they also have the property where they automatically damage you very often. You have this little puzzle with the evil ring to open the door, and then we get a cutscene.
Adol, it's me, Lair, the poet. I knew you had the courage to save me, but to be honest with you, I allowed myself to be caught. I didn't know any other way to find you. I have something of great interest for you. You are aware of the books of Ys, but not everyone can read these books. I have a pair of glasses that will allow you to do so. You have shown your courage, and I see you as our only hope. Please, take the glasses. The demon who locked me here is Darkfact. He is plotting to use his evil powers to make this land his own. You must defeat Darkfact if we are to have any chance.
Yes, Snowfire, it's actually Lair, as in Monster Lair, L-A-I-R. She'll always be Lair to me, honestly. This is the first version I played. She tells us pretty outright the gimmick of the final boss, which is that you do need all of the silver equipment equipped, otherwise you just die. And we're going to use the mirror on the way out as well, because these monsters are terrifying. Now you can see that they even hurt you when they're frozen, which is really irritating. And if you try to walk through that normally, they just do that constantly. Even if you have good position on them, the right angle for attack, they still hurt you. And they hit pretty hard and you take a ton of damage, so it's just better to avoid all that. Alright, after we rescue Lair, we are now able to do something that is required and is also maybe the most frustrating puzzle in the game for casual players. I've seen a lot of people play this game blind and try to get their way through it without a guide, and this is always the spot that trips people up. What you're supposed to do here is read the volume Gemma, which we picked up earlier, with the glasses that we just got. And it mentions that there's this powerful amulet that can be used to seal the evil away, or something like that. And you're supposed to put 2 and 2 together and realize, wait, there was an NPC named Gemma, Luda Gemma, that we talked to earlier. Let's track him down, and maybe he has that amulet. That's the intent of the puzzle. It's not very well telegraphed that that's really what you have to do. It's a pretty big leap for people to sort of put that together and realize you have to backtrack at this point and talk to Luda. But it is necessary. We have to go all the way back to the area where I broke that pillar earlier and talk to him to receive a key item. Otherwise, we cannot finish the game. So we're going to do that. It's quite a bit of a ways back, so it's going to be a couple minutes of walking. And if you skip this, you can get very far in the game before it becomes a problem. In fact, you can complete all the rest of the content up to the door to the final boss's chamber, which will be locked with a mysterious power, and there is no obvious way to get past. And there's, again, not much of a hint that you don't have the key item that is mentioned by the book. So you would have to sort of figure that out or look up a guide is really what you would do. But if you do that, you can end up going very, very deep into the game and having to backtrack quite far. Yeah, it's really oddly positioned in the game. Like, it would make more sense if they put Luda in between Lair and the final boss or something like that. so that you actually would run into them.
It's really
rather than having him be on the 10th floor way back where you forgot he even was.
My father has told me of our land's legend. He said that the key to defeating the demons lies in the books of East. There are many mysteries left to unfold, but the books can be your guide. This is a charm that has been handed down from our ancestors of long ago. Take it with you. It will help you break the evil curse of dark fact.
And it's even kind of vague about what it does. Like, it says break the evil curse. It's a key. Like, it opens a door. It's not really obvious what. Any more fetch quests to do. We're just going to make our way to the top of the tower, do a little more grinding, and kill 2 bosses, and we're out of here. This is a segment of the run where there's a divergence between the route for this category that I'm doing, which is book 1 only, and the book 2 combined. Something wrong? I'm seeing some comments in chat. Stream decided to hiccup. Is it me or the restream? Well, I'll keep going. Okay, says we're good. Okay, sounds like it was just a little blip. Nothing serious. All right, so if I were going to do the combined book 1 and 2 route, I would grind an extra 2 levels in book 1 to carry over into book 2, because it speeds up the first part of book 2 quite a bit. You might remember if you've played East 2, there's this spot where you have to get this guarded chest where these rock monsters are standing in front of it, and you have to very, very slowly chip away at their health while you stand and heal. The extra levels are explicitly for that. That's the only reason we bother. It speeds that up by like 4 minutes. I'm not even kidding. It's so obscene. But since we're not doing that, we get to fight the final 2 bosses of this game at a lower and more dangerous level, which makes them more interesting. All right, we're just about caught up to where we were. Our backtrack is finally over. On the next floor, we have another little gimmicky room in the dungeon that is affectionately known as the Scorpion Hallway. I'll let you guess why. It's a segment where I'm going to basically just hold down the button and hope for the best. It's a bit random. It's not impossible to die here, so I will make a safety save. You might think this is a good spot to use that mirror that freezes all the enemies, but you'd be wrong, because monsters in this game can still damage you even when they're frozen, and you get about as beaten up with or without the mirror, frankly. It honestly doesn't change things very much. So we just kind of push our way through it and don't bother with any safeties, other than the armor ring. That's like the main spot where we need the armor ring. Yeah, in the PC version, the remakes, the mirror, the monsters will not hit you, so you can just use it there and get through that for free. But here, I don't have that luxury. All right, next floor is going to be our final grind segment of the game. It's a very efficient grind spot. It's not quite as scary as the statues, though it is still a little dangerous. The setup here in particular is pretty important. Good. Okay, we'll give this a second for the mirror to wear off, and then we'll respawn these guys and fight them in the hallway. These are worth 33 a pop, and they come in groups of 3, so this is a really fast spot. The first couple levels here are very dangerous because we take a lot of damage. As we level up, this gets safer. Our defense values kind of skyrocket as we get through this grind. They're deciding to not all come toward me, which is awkward. It makes it harder to chase them down. So I'm going to make quick saves as I go until I get to about 7100, and then I'll stop, because at that point I'm not that worried anymore. Not that it's impossible I could screw up and get killed at that level, but it's much less likely. And I'm going to target the arbitrary sounding number 8335, which is going to be just enough that, combined with all the other experience I'm going to get going to the boss and fighting the next boss, we will have the levels I want for the final boss. A little bit low on health here, so I will be a little cautious with the saves. Ha ha! That jerk. That was awkward. Okay, fine. We lost a little time there. You know what, I'm just going to go, because I'm at a level where I can hit one extra enemy in the next corridor and it'll be fine. Yeah. That was pretty bad. So there's 5 enemies that are guaranteed to be in my way on this next floor, and a 6th one that's kind of random, so we're going to make a point of killing that 6th one, which is actually the first one, this guy. Okay, so we're all set now. Our experience route is fine. Here. Okay. 8,500, that's what I want to see. Now boss fight. There's a quick kill for this that is not that consistent. Let's see if I get it. I got the setup, but I missed the wiggle. That's okay. And as long as I don't forget to equip the silver gear, the final boss is totally scripted. It's a deterministic fight. Time will not be on the final boss kill. It will be after it when I read the book. I'll call it out.
I know you are searching for the secrets contained within the books, and you have done well so far. I am impressed by your daring ambition, but of course you are still defenseless against my superior powers. The name Dark Fact will be the scourge of all men to come. Oh, you are brave, but you are also a fool. You have no chance without the protection of the silver equipment. Knave, prepare to die!
Yeah, this fight's nowhere near as hard as the PC version of the same fight, which is quite notorious. Got him. All right. One more thing to do. Time. Thank you for the GGs. Hope you enjoyed it. We will get a little of the ending, the very first scene. We will get our only taste of Jim Cummings' voice acting. He is the first character to talk, I believe, in the blue robe.
All communication to Darm Tower has been cut off. What should we do to stop this rogue? His bravery presents an interesting challenge. Let's see how far this Adol character can go before we crush him. Very well then, sir.
And of course, I'm done here. You can cut the stream anytime for me, but we do get the opportunity to listen to maybe the best East song total to make the end of battle in the sort of transition cutscene here. Super good. And thanks for the rest of the GGs that came in after I said that the first time. Okay, Kumo says he's going to let it play for a bit. My PB and world record is 56:35, which was a run that feels beatable. I took kind of a bad time at the start and played it out, and I had just a perfect Darm Tower. It was nearly flawless. It was absolutely insane. It's going to be hard to beat that Darm Tower, but I have time to save in the first half.